This podcast is a Jeff Townsend Media production.
Have you been searching for a podcast? Do you want to learn from some great content creators? Well, you've come to the right place. Indie Podcaster with your host, Jeff Townsend, the Indie Podcast Father.
This is Jeff Townsend, and as you're aware, Indie Podcaster is currently on a break. I'm actually tied up with a job in the podcast industry and then a lot of other projects that I'm working on. But I want to continue to give you some content that you may find helpful along your podcasting journey. With that being said, I'm going to share some episodes of Good Morning Podcasters. Yes, that's right, the return of Good Morning Podcasters. Fuzz Martin and I purchased the rights to that, and podcasting sucks. So today, I'll be sharing some episodes of Fuzz Martin's Good Morning Podcasters with you. This is great information. You could learn a lot from it. To learn more, go to goodmorningpodcasters.com. Let's check out some of these episodes. I'm playing them back to back.
I'm Fuzz Martin, and this is the all-new Good Morning Podcasters. Good morning. How's your day going? If you're just tuning in, I, along with Jeff Townsend of Jeff Townsend Media, recently purchased Good Morning Podcasters from Tanner Campbell. If you want to learn about me and what we plan to do with this show, and also Podcasting Sucks, hop on over and check out the trailer to this show. By the way, this show is currently propagating to the various podcatchers, so stay tuned and, of course, subscribe, please. So you may have tried to log into Instagram on Monday, and you may have been very surprised to learn that your account had been suspended for no apparent reason at all. Instagram even told some people, we suspended your account on October 31st, 2022, and when they asked for what, they said, wouldn't you like to know? If you were able to log in, you might have also seen that you had lost a huge number of followers. Well, either way, you were not alone. Instagram had an outage on Monday that accidentally locked out millions of Instagram users. So if you weren't one of those who were locked out, the drop in follower accounts that you saw was due to the people who were suspended. So the funniest part about the whole thing was that Instagram had to hop onto Twitter to tell everybody the news and apologize. Their tweet read, "We've resolved this bug now. It was causing people in different parts of the world to have issues accessing their accounts and caused a temporary change for some in number of followers. Sorry," with that like dazed smiley face or like confused face. Things seem to be back up and running today. Crisis averted. This is an issue that happens with meta brands every so often, where they'll have either a mass lockout or things will go down for a while for some people. We've had it happen where, we're running a big ad campaign and a group of our employees gets locked out and they can't get into adjust or stop the campaign. So hopefully that didn't happen to anybody through Instagram. I don't think that's possible necessarily. That said, if something like this does happen to you unexpectedly, don't panic. First, go to the internet and see if other people are having this issue. If they are, then that means you're not alone. You can wait it out. It'll be fine. Everybody's dealing with it. Put down your phone for a bit. Go for a walk. However, if people aren't talking about it, well, then it might be time to panic. And then you need to find some way to get a hold of somebody. Good luck. I hope the Instagram outage didn't cause you too much heartburn. At least not as much heartburn as people are having on Twitter right now over the sale of Twitter. Though I know a lot of you wanted to probably post some Halloween content and may have had issues doing so. That'll do it for episode 1 of the all-new Good Morning Podcasters. Follow the show on Twitter at GM Podcasters. You can also follow me on Twitter separately at Fuzz Martin. And we will talk to you later this week on the all-new Good Morning Podcasters. Hi, I'm Fuzz Martin, and this is the all-new Good Morning Podcasters. Good morning to all of you, especially those of you waking up with a huge hangover this morning because you just found out that your host, Sounder FM, is shutting down. On Tuesday, November 1st, Sounder announced the following to their listeners, quote, "With a heavy heart, we've decided to sunset the Sounder hosting and ad platform. Ads will shut down on December 31st, 2022, and hosting will shut down on January 31st, 2023. To learn more about the decision or how to migrate your account, please check out our blog post and FAQs." Well, that's a bummer. Sounder is, and soon we'll say was, a podcast hosting platform and podcast ads platform. They told their hosting clients that they are, quote, "doubling down on data," and that they were going to sunset their podcasting platform. According to the blog post on their website from CEO Cal Amin, he said, "As I shared last week, what we've discovered through conversations with hundreds of industry stakeholders is that it's a real challenge to have access to the data and insights required to make decisions and act. In response, we're going to be focusing our attention on the biggest opportunity in audio, building data solutions for audio. We are hyper-focused on continuing to build out the world's leading brand safety, brand suitability, and contextual targeting solutions for audio content." In other words, there are too many hosts out there and they weren't competitive, so they're going in a different direction. I actually respect that. The platform has only been around for 3 years, and I'm a firm believer in the whole fail fast philosophy. But that said, I do feel very bad for the hundreds or thousands of independent podcasters that are hosting through Sounder. It is, as some of us know, a royal pain to move a podcast from one host to another, and they now only have about 90 days to do so. So if you are a Sounder customer, get on it. According to the website, Sounder's hosting platform, again, will be shut down on January 31st, 2023. All of their other programs will stop on the 31st of December this year. What I'm really not sure about is how they plan to focus on, quote, "data solutions for audio," end quote. I'm not sure what that tangibly means for the industry. I'm not sure what building the world's leading brand safety, brand suitability, and contextual targeting solutions for audio content means and how that will be profitable, but I'm guessing they've got some sort of direction. This is probably actually a risk for any host if you're not hosting on your own. And hosting on your own is no fun, so it's kind of a risk either way. Back in the day, because I'm an oldie, we used to host our episodes on Amazon's S3 storage platform and then manage the RSS feed through Blueberry's podcast plugin for WordPress. It wasn't totally foolproof because Blueberry could have trashed the plugin at any time, but if Amazon ever got rid of S3, the world would be in a world of hurt. So I wasn't so worried about that. Also, one thing that really isn't good for Sounder customers is that they're going to have to start over with their analytics. According to Sounder's FAQs, quote, "Your historical numbers will not change, but you must download an all-time data export to save relevant metrics around your podcasts. Please refer to the download section of this help article for the steps to follow. Please note that data from Sounder will not appear in your new host's analytics dashboard. Your data from Sounder will live in the CSV file that is provided after your export of all-time data." End quote. So in other words, you will always have to add the old stats to the new stats in whatever new podcasting platform you come to, and then explain that to your sponsors. This becomes a big plus for services like Chartable or PodTrack, but just like Sounder, either or both of those could go away at any time, and you could be up Podcast Creek without a paddle. Sounder has put together an interesting list of hosting providers that their customers can switch to. The first is Spreaker. Spreaker is actually offering a 50% off deal to those who switch with the code Sounder50, all lowercase. Sounder is also promoting Acast, Red Circle, Anchor, and Podbean. I've used Spreaker before, and I liked the platform. That said, I highly recommend Captivate. That's who I host all of my podcasts through, and the team there is top-notch. But again, any one of those platforms could go away at any time, and there's always a chance that they're going to go away in the blink of an eye. So be sure to back up your show, and also be sure to back up things like your notes, titles, and other information as well. You never know when you're going to need it. To back up my shows, I have a few SanDisk 1 terabyte extreme portable solid state drives. They're lightning fast. I haven't had any problems with them. A 1 terabyte drive is about $110 on Amazon. I'll provide a link in the show notes. Again, my condolences to all of the Sounder customers who are living with the uncertainty of not knowing who their host is going to be right now. Just remember, it could happen to any of us at any time. It could happen to me right now, but I sure hope it doesn't. Thanks for listening to episode 2 of Good Morning Podcasters. I hope to have the new website up and running soon. I'm just waiting for Tan the Man to transfer the domain, and we'll be up and running shortly after that. Until then, I've set up a Substack account, which I will link to in the show notes, and on Twitter at GM Podcasters. You can also follow my personal account at Fuzz Martin, and be sure to click the subscribe button in the podcast player that you're listening to right now. And we'll talk to you next time right here on Good Morning Podcasters. Welcome to the all-new Good Morning Podcasters. Good Morning Podcasters is a currently semi-weekly podcast about podcasting that has returned from the dead after Tanner Campbell left it to die on a hill while he found fame and fortune podcasting about stoicism. Honestly, though, I really missed having a daily podcast about podcasting to listen to, and I'm excited to step into this role. And while I'm not going to start off by podcasting daily, though this is my 3rd podcast this week and 4th if you count the trailer, I will podcast at least twice a week until I get my legs under me and figure this all out. And on all of that, just as I was stepping into the booth to record this, I read that Evo Terra is stepping aside from podcasting pontifications after 600 episodes. An amazing feat. Congratulations to Evo. Enjoy your new adventures. My name is Fuzz Martin, and I am a partner and the chief strategy officer at Epic Creative near Milwaukee. I'm also a former broadcaster and radio program director. I'm a Virgo. I suffer from untreated ADHD like the guy who used to run the show. It's kind of a perfect fit. And today we're talking about one of the best free tools that you likely don't know about yet, because so very few of my clients know about this, but it is an ultra powerful tool. And that tool is the LinkedIn Insight tag. You probably have the Google Analytics tag on your website. Side note, if you have had Google Analytics running on your website for a while, at least, let's say, a year, make sure you've converted to the new GA4 tag instead of the traditional UA tag. We'll talk about that in another episode. But Google will be shuttering the UA tag soon, and you want to be sure that you're prepared. What is a tag? Well, when we're talking about tags, we're talking about a little snippet of code that goes usually into the header or footer of your website. This tag helps track users in order to gain insights on how many visitors are coming to your site, who is coming to your site, what their demographics are, what other websites they're going to, etc. If you're using Facebook or Instagram ads, hopefully you're using the meta tag to help build audiences that are similar to those who are visiting your website. And the one you're probably less familiar with is the one we're talking about today, and that is the LinkedIn Insight tag. Like most tags, this tag is designed for people who are advertising on the tag's platform. In this instance, it's meant to be used for advertising through LinkedIn. But here's a little secret. You don't have to use it that way. The LinkedIn tag will give you insights on who is visiting your site, like what their job titles are, what companies they work for, like the actual companies, what industries they're in, as well as some of the other usual audience demographics that's very helpful for determining your audience. This information is gold because it will help you determine what kind of people are coming to your site so that you can do things like advertise to more of those types of individuals, create content that will connect with those types of individuals, or discover new industries that are interested in your content. There may be people listening to your show that you don't know are listening. While it's not necessarily going to be a silver bullet for finding new audiences, It is a free and easy way to get more information about who's coming to your website, which you likely didn't have already. You can also set up conversions to see who is actually clicking on the podcast player on your site or clicking on outbound links to your Apple, Spotify, etc. accounts, which is super cool. So how do you get started with the LinkedIn Insight tag? It is very easy. To install it, first you have to go to LinkedIn and get started with Campaign Manager. That's their ads platform. Next, you'll create a new ad account. Don't worry, you won't be spending any money. I mean, you can if you want, but you won't have to. You don't even have to enter your credit card information. Then you'll want to create a new campaign. Go into that campaign, click Analyze, and then click Insight Tag. Then it asks you how you want to install the tag. You can either do it yourself, send the code to your developer if you have someone else doing your website, or you can use Google Tag Manager if you so desire. That's what I use. So follow the instructions. LinkedIn has very easy to follow instructions, but there are a number of YouTube videos that will help you depending on your website platform. So look around if you're getting stuck. Then install the tag, publish it, and then sit back and wait for LinkedIn users to visit your website, and then you're in business. Once it's up and running and it's had time to collect information, that data will be available in the campaign by clicking on Analyze on the left-hand side and then clicking Website Demographics. But be patient. It might take a while to collect all that information. Again, a big part of success with running a podcast or any business is knowing who your audience is and being able to find them where they are. The LinkedIn Insights tag is just another arrow in your quiver that will help you get there, but you really have nothing to lose by installing it and getting that up and running. Again, it's free. Don't even have to put in your credit card information. Thank you for listening to episode 3 of Good Morning Podcasters. There are images associated with the steps I just talked about on this show's Substack. Go to gmpodcasters.substack.com to subscribe. It's free. You can also get there from the show notes of this podcast. And soon we'll have a website up, I'm guessing within a week or two. Also, thank you to David Luce of Conscious Business Leaders for dropping this show's first 5-star review. What's up, David? Much love. Follow this show on Twitter at GM Podcasters. You can also follow me at Fuzz Martin, and I will talk to you again real soon right here on Good Morning Podcasters. Good morning, podcasters. On today's episode, we'll explore the things that you really don't need for your podcast. My name is Fuzz Martin, and this is the all-new Good Morning Podcasters, a show about podcasting for podcasters. I am one of the people who run a fairly large advertising agency. We have 85 employees. We work for some brands that I'm sure you know, but I'm not at liberty to say who they are. But clients ask me all the time what they need to get started with podcasting, and I typically tell them what equipment and software they need depending on their budget, what their goals are, how many people will be on the show, if they're recording locally or they've got people who are recording in from other locations, and then also their vision of the show. But what people rarely talk about when people ask about podcasting is what you don't need to get started with podcasting. And I want to talk about that today. So here are my top 5 things that you do not need when you start podcasting. Number 1, the thing you really don't need is a Shure SM7B or an Electro Voice RE20. A great microphone is a nice to have, but you do not need one. You can buy a mic that is right size for what your budget is and learn how to equalize to your equipment. Edit for your equipment. There are a lot of videos available on YouTube that will teach you about equalization in your editing process. It takes some time, but learn it and you will sound great. It doesn't matter if you're using a USB mic or a high-end Shure SM7B. You're going to need to know how to edit. And while you don't need a Shure SM7B or an EV-RE20, you do need to have a dynamic mic. You do not need to get a condenser mic. I repeat, do not get a condenser mic unless you have a perfectly sound treated room. You just need a dynamic mic. So make sure you look for that when you're purchasing. I have a room that's about 85% treated. It's not 100% treated because I cheaped out on my mic arms. So they throw a little bit of noise and a little bit of reverberation when something hits the table. Also, the table itself sends a good amount of noise. And with my dynamic mic, that's typically not an issue. On my $1,400 AKG condenser mic, I can hear every single little imperfection in the room. So you're best to spend $50 to $100 on a dynamic mic and record in a room that is free of imperfections than you are to spend a bunch of money on an expensive condenser mic. Really, those are just meant for high-end sound studios. Number 2, in the things that you don't need to get started in podcasting, a recording booth. While you do need a room that's going to sound good, you don't need to spend $10K on a recording booth. If your kitchen isn't very echoey, you can podcast there. You can spend some time and some extra editing or spend some extra one-time money on a software plugin that will still save you $9,950 over buying or building a good studio. Again, you don't need to spend $10,000 on a recording booth. I remember watching a live episode of this show called Harmontown, where the Rick and Morty creator, Dan Harmon, was broadcasting from the closet of his $1 million mansion in Los Angeles. During the pandemic, I actually recorded some national TV and radio voiceovers from my walk-in closet. And you know what? It may have been better treated in that closet than some of the actual studios that I record in. There are things that you can do to treat your room for cheap. You don't need to go broke to get good sound. You just need to get creative. But again, you do not need to spend $10K on a recording booth. Number 3, a co-host. There are a ton of successful podcasts that do not have a co-host. Don't wait until you find a co-host to get started. I will tell you this from experience. Sometimes having a co-host can be a bigger albatross than doing everything on your own. At least when you're on your own, you know who's responsible for what, right? If you have a co-host in mind, they're game for the schedule, and they're committed to making the show a success, then by all means. However, if you have to keep begging them to come on the show or finding a time to record, you're likely going to be disappointed. They're likely not as into this podcast as you are. If you're waiting on a co-host, they're probably going to stand you up or decide this show isn't for them, and then you're going to be back to square one. So think today about how you would run the show that you've got in your head without a co-host. Number 4, formal training. There are plenty of free training videos on the market, and by the market, I mean YouTube, that you do not need to spend hundreds, thousands, or even singles of dollars on. If you want to learn how to equalize your audio in Audacity, go to YouTube, type in equalization Audacity or equalizing in Audacity. You'll get about 5,000 results. And the top ones are really good, and you don't have to pay money for them. There are some courses that are going to teach you the things that you might not know what to ask. There's definitely value in some courses, but you do not need one in order to get started. So get over that. Just go get started and learn your way around if you're unsure. Do some of your own training. Watch a lot of videos. You can figure this out on your own. And the last thing that you do not need in order to get started is money. And this will likely make some gatekeepers roll their eyes. But the fact is, if you simply want to start, you can sign up for a free host like Anchor or Spreaker's free level. Record using your earbuds, preferably those old wired earbuds. Edit your podcast in Audacity. Make it as clean as you can with the software you have. or the software you don't have, but just make sure that your content is great. History has proved time and time again that if your content blows people's socks off, they don't care if you recorded in a potato and edited it in GarageBand. These days, people might even applaud your granola approach to it. So embrace it, but you do not need money to get started in podcasting. You can just start. Don't let the gatekeepers keep you down. So again, if you're thinking about podcasting and you have a good idea, you could literally start as soon as this episode is over. Thank you for listening to Good Morning Podcasters. I am Fuzz Martin. I appreciate you listening, and I hope that every time you listen to this show, you're getting something tangible and actionable out of it. You can follow the show on Twitter at GM Podcasters. You can follow me at Fuzz Martin. New episodes currently semi-weekly, though it was kind of daily this week, but that's probably unsustainable. Subscribe to the show by clicking on the plus or subscribe button right now in your podcast players. And speaking of subscribing, you can get the text version of this episode as well at gmpodcasters.substack.com. And go ahead and subscribe while you're there. You'll get an email when a new episode comes out. Again, gmpodcasters.substack.com. And we'll talk to you tomorrow on a special episode of Podcasting Sucks with Jeff Townsend right here on the Good Morning Podcasters feed.
Thanks for listening, and thanks for telling a friend. But more importantly, thank you for supporting independent content creators. If you're enjoying the podcast or like the work we're doing in the indie podcaster community, I ask you to tell just one fellow content creator that hasn't heard of this podcast or the work we're doing and share it with them. But more importantly, I hope you continue with me on this journey as the indie podcaster. Keep being you. Keep being great. And the question is, do I stay here? Will you be back? Are you gonna come back? Will you be back? Are you coming back?